Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the live Q&A with me, Professor Michael Scott. It is the 20th of February, and that makes it actually a very special date, because as I suddenly realised, well, someone pointed out to me last night after I finished giving a talk at the Herculaneum Society in London about invisible Herculaneum. It was very great to see some of you there. Someone pointed out that at 2 a.m. in the morning, this morning, it was 02:02, at 2 minutes past 2 this morning, on the 20th of the 2nd in 2020. So it was 02:02, 2002, 2020. And somebody else, when I pointed this out over Twitter, somebody else, in fact, one of my students at the Warwick Classics department came back and said, yes, but this evening it will be, if you use the 24-hour clock, 20:02, 8:02 p.m, 20:02 on 20:02. 2020. So today is a very fun auspicious date, and it will be quite a while, I think, before we can do another of those, bringing it all together in the same way. So hello and welcome. So enjoy the 20th of February. It's clearly a very important day, and particularly if you're I certainly wasn't up at 02:02 this morning, but I might well be up at 20:02 this evening to enjoy 20:02, 20:02, 2020. Hello Sarah, hello Angela, thank you all so much indeed for tuning in. It's great to see you. Now it is a prize week this week. We're looking back at some of the great questions that we've got around to answering in the Q&As over the last month or so. So I've been reviewing some of the questions and come up with kind of the winner, I think, for this week, which is Ian Yakus. Now, hopefully I'm pronouncing your surname correctly. I apologise in advance if I didn't. And Ian's question was, what's the one historical period that you wished you had studied and maybe will, kind of thing? And we were talking, for me particularly, it was about the end of the 15th century, that period of a massive expansion, both putting places on the map, discovering new routes to places around the world that very much changed people's understandings, appreciations, networks, and in fact, kind of from then on, changed very much the way in which the world worked. So that would be a period that I would love to study more, and perhaps will one day. So thank you very much indeed, Ian. Please do get in touch. You have won a Michael Scott 2020 calendar, desktop calendar with some pictures that I've taken from places I love around the world. So do get in touch with us to give us your address to send that out to you, either via email, michaelscottacademic@gmail.com, or through the Facebook page. Hello Debbie, hello Rosie, hello Linda, hello everyone. Thank you so much indeed for tuning in. Welcome to the special Q&A on the 20th of the 02, 2020. Not quite at 8:02 p.m, 20:02 p.m. in the evening, but we're getting there at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I hope the sun is shining with you. The sun has just come out where I am at the moment in Oxford, and kind of after the rainstorm that happened just a little half an hour ago. So hopefully you're having a lovely afternoon's weather, a bit of sunshine, finally sunshine coming around the corner as we move slowly into spring. It is also today, the 20th of February, a very important day because it is International Lego Classicisms Day, #ILCD20, that is set up and has been running now for a couple of years, organised by the Lego classicist himself, who has now immortalised in Lego 3 members of the Warwick Classics department, myself, Zara Newby and Alison Cooley. And you may have seen on Twitter yesterday that myself, the Warwick Classics Twitter account, the Warwick Classics Network Twitter account, and a number of other individuals in the department were all having fun as we had our Lego figures out and about, meeting new prospective undergrads who were with us for our open day, as well as getting up close and personal with ancient vases, VR technology, ancient coins, etc, etc. So do follow that on Twitter if you can, and I'll post some of those photos on Instagram, and I know some have gone up on the Facebook page as well. So kind of, yes, we celebrate today International Lego Classicisms Day. Patricia, you got rain. Oh no, I'm very sorry. Sophie, bonjour, comment ça va? Vous allez bien, j'espère. Bienvenue au Facebook Q&A. With International Lego Classicisms Day 2020, it also puts me in memory of the fact that a year ago to this day, on International Lego Classicisms Day 2019, I was giving my professorial inaugural lecture at the University of Warwick that was being live streamed over Facebook as well. So kind of, it was a big day for me last year. It's nice to think an entire year has gone by. Hasn't that gone by quickly since that lecture? And thank you all for for being such great contributors to the Facebook page in the interim with your fantastic questions, your posts, ideas, photos, etc. Now, just a reminder that obviously, as many of you will be aware, we were hacked on the Facebook page several months ago, which meant we lost a lot of the material that you had been sending in, particularly your photos from different locations around the world. And I know we've been posting up on the Facebook page reminders for people to resend in their material, but I just met last night at one of the lectures I was giving for the Herculaneum Society, somebody who had sent in photos and kind of wasn't aware that they needed to send them back in again. So please do, if you shared photos with us of your snaps in different amazing archaeological sites around the world, then please do get back in touch through the Facebook page to resubmit as many of those photos as possible. That would be great. Happy birthday, Alexis is saying, ça va bien, Sophie? Merci. Well, hello from York. BBJ Reed from York, and we have a great new thing that's just come up in York that's in the news. Now, where is this? The kind of thing I wanted to flag that is happening. Yes, from the 6th of April to Saturday the 4th of July, there is Gladiators, a Cemetery of Secrets happening in York. When a Roman cemetery was unearthed back in York in 2004, the 80 burials intrigued archaeologists because the majority of the skeletons had been decapitated and had suffered injuries prior to death. So this is an exhibition that's asking about the skeletal remains of 2 of these men. Where did they come from? How did they die? And if they were gladiators or perhaps soldiers, criminals or slaves, brought to the dynamic town of Eboracum from across the Roman world. So that's going on in your neck of the woods. Kind of absolutely fantastic. That's from the 6th of April to the 4th of July. Please do get along to that. And we've obviously posted on the Facebook page all the details of the event. Hi, Carrie. Hi from Carrie and Mars. Lovely to see you. Thank you so much indeed for tuning in. Well, okay, we need to get on and answer some questions. Time is flying by already. So Julia Mescal asked live from last time, did it take many hours filming 3D in Rome? Now, I presume by this you mean the laser scanning that we then turned into the virtual reality worlds for the Invisible Cities series, which has been showing again recently, the Venice, Naples, Florence series on television. Well, the way it works is that we have to film the two entirely separately. So you have to film with the normal conventional cameras in a location first, then we have to leave and move out, and then the scan team come in and set up their laser scanners to be able to laser scan the environments. And we can't be there while that's happening, because otherwise we would get in the way of the laser scans. So we have almost 2 teams that are moving independently of one another. Sometimes we'll try and work it so we're filming in one site in the morning and the scanning team are scanning a different site, and then we just swap over in the afternoon. But the scans and the 2D or 3D normal filming, it takes place independently. Then when we get back to the UK, the scan team do all the crunching with their computers of the data of the laser scanning and the colour photography to create those laser scan virtual worlds that are then morphed into, where necessary, into virtual reality worlds. And then we take a green screen studio for the day, and they bring all their gear along and we create that virtual world. So I've got my headset on and goggles and we're moving around the virtual world, which is simultaneously me moving around in a green screen studio in the virtual world is being filmed by traditional cameras. And then in post-production again for that, they overlay onto the film footage, the usual camera, normal camera film footage, the virtual world that I was seeing through my goggles. So the viewer at home on the TV screen can then see me moving around in that virtual world. So it kind of, it's a multi-stage process to get it all in order, to get the worlds, the magic that you see happening on TV. And one of the things I always was keen to do with that series was to do a behind-the-scenes sort of mini documentary thing that we could have done, a 5-10 minute thing, perhaps for YouTube or something, about how the program is made, because it is quite fascinating, all the different stages, and also just the sheer hilarity sometimes of the ways in which we had to get in and get out of some of the underground locations. I think that could have made for a good fun documentary documentary, but it wasn't allowed up to now. We'll see what happens in the future. So thank you, Julie, for that. Hello, Sarah from windy Scotland. Thank you very much indeed for tuning in. I'm sorry you haven't got the sunshine. Radrupa Das, now talking about photos, sending photos to the Facebook page of amazing places you visit. Radrupa is about to head to Uzbekistan in Central Asia, going there in February. And do I have any recommendations of ancient classical sites? Well, Radrupa, I have no doubt that you will have Samarkand on your list, and I am insanely jealous of you getting to explore. So you have to promise us all here that you will send in some photos of your trip afterwards that we can put up on the Facebook page and discuss. So Samarkand, absolutely. Bukhara would be on top of my list if I was going to Uzbekistan soon to be able to see as well. And also, for me, I would love to get into the Fergana Valley, obviously made famous because that was the place where the so-called the Chinese, the ancient Qin and Han Chinese, were desperate to acquire the so-called what they thought of as heavenly horses, or indeed blood-sweating horses that came from the Fergana Valley, who were so strong, supposedly so strong, that far outstripped the strength and power of any of the horses native to China at the time. And it was in pursuit of some good Fergana heavenly horses, blood-sweating horses, that Qin and particularly Han emperors indeed expanded both their military and diplomatic reach through the Tarim Basin and out into the area that they knew as the Western regions, what we know as Central Asia, to make diplomatic contact with the overlords of Fergana at the time, and to initially barter, try their hand, the best diplomatic hand, and then indeed turn up in some military force to be able to acquire those horses in large number, to bring back to China and institute their own breeding program, and indeed to bring back alfalfa seeds, which supposedly these horses munched on and sort of got all their strength from, so that the Chinese armies could have these horses, these brilliantly strong horses, to counteract the attacks from the many nomadic communities along particularly their northern borders that indeed had very strong horses and were of course covering huge distances all the time as part of their nomadic lifestyle. So finally the Chinese had a horse that could match up to those of their enemies. So I would say, Radrupa, have an amazing time in Uzbekistan. Send in as many photos as you can. Send in a few reports to us via email or the Facebook page of where you are when you're there. Get yourself into the central hub of the trading worlds of antiquity in Samarkand. Buy something in the markets and imagine yourself transported back into one of the great hubs of the ancient Silk Roads back over 2,000 years ago. Hello, Anthi. Sam, thank you so much indeed for tuning in. So, Radrupa, have a great time. We wish you all the very best, and we are just a smidgen jealous of your trip. Victor, Manuel, Fernandez, Patino, for you, what is the unsolved mystery of the ancient world which still revolves in your head? I love how you frame the question, Victor. Fantastic. What is your ancient mystery? I throw it all back to you. What's your mystery that you would love most of all to be solved from antiquity? Do let us know either now live on the Q&A or later on via email or direct to the Facebook page. For me, well, I think there's tons of things we would love to know because the evidence hasn't survived. Or that we tantalizingly know that something existed, but it just hasn't survived in enough it's too fragmentary for us to be able to unravel it. We were talking about this in the lecture I gave to the Herculaneum Society last night, talking about the extraordinary collection of papyrus scrolls that were excavated from Herculaneum back in the 18th century, but they're carbonized and rolled up, and to this day we have not been able to successfully read many of them because indeed just trying to open them up often breaks them apart and sends them crumbling away. And so we've been desperately trying to find a technological fix to be able to read these documents that are kind of burned, scarred, carbonized and rolled up, because it is this extraordinary collection of scrolls is the only sort of intact library that we have surviving from antiquity. And just imagine the text that could be waiting for us to read. And it's a very exciting time because, as we were discussing last night, we think on there is a breakthrough really happening in terms of the cutting edge X-ray technology, which is then combined with computer algorithms to be able to peer into these scrolls and see potentially and work out what the faded ink that's still just about there might actually be saying. So who knows what those texts might be. But in terms of mysteries that we know, but we're never quite sure that we will ever be able to solve. It's not so much a question of evidence as opposed to kind of things lost in the sands of time. What about the sea peoples, the nature of the sea peoples? Kind of who were they? Those who seem to attack Egypt and the Levant and the Eastern Mediterranean at the end, sort of thinking through into sort of 1200 and 900 BC, this great invasion which changed the course of history and put an end to the sort of Mycenaean world. Homer, Red Drooper's asking about Homer, kind of was he or wasn't he? Who was he? Did he exist indeed? Yeah, absolutely, another fantastic mystery. I was hearing some of the latest developments just the other day about where has the body of Alexander the Great gone. Some of the theories that involve, particularly if you read the works of Andrew Chugg, thinking about whether his bones or the remains of Alexander the Great now are actually in St. Mark's Basilica in Venice for one reason or another. Linda, how the rule under Akhenaten was truly destroyed. I'd love to know what really happened. Absolutely. Fantastic, kind of loving these mysteries coming in. What about you, Victor? Tell us about what mystery you would like that keeps you up at night wondering about the ancient world. So keep those coming in. Chris Bate has been in touch as well to ask, are there any summer school projects that you would recommend for undergraduate students? So Chris, I presume this is in the area of classics and the study of the classical world. Sarah thought I was talking about mermaids. You're very disappointed. I'm sure if some people ask a question about mermaids, I'm sure we can get in something. The sea peoples, you mean? Right, okay. No, no, we don't think it was mermaids. We don't think. But get a question in there, Sarah, about mermaids, and we'll do some talking about mermaids, don't you worry. So Chris is asking about any summer school projects recommended for undergraduate students in classics. So things I would definitely recommend if you're an undergrad student is to get yourself out to the British School at Athens and to do their undergraduate summer course, and equally the British School at Rome undergraduate summer course as well. So this is where you apply. It's a competitive application, but it does, obviously there is a cost associated with it, but there are bursaries available as well, and you get, in the case of Athens, do about 3 weeks, and you go working with experts, and you go on site visits to museums and archaeological sites across much of mainland Greece, including the Peloponnese. Absolutely fantastic. I taught that course several years ago, and it was such fun. Kind of a geek fest extraordinaire where you try and close out every museum, but the coolest people are being thrown out of the museum at 7 o'clock every night. Linda's asking, did Atlantis exist in reality? There you go. There's another mystery we'd like to solve. Love it. Absolutely great. Keep them coming in. The British School at Rome, again, more like about a 2-week course with kind of slightly closer to Rome in terms of the coverage, but equally an absolutely fantastic course. And of course, the best thing is you get to stay in the British School at Athens or the British School at Rome, these great research institutes that are kind of my home away from home as well when I'm working in either of those countries, and get connected into the network of archaeologists working from different countries around the world based in Athens to uncover the ancient past. So those I would definitely recommend. If you need to stay in the UK or want to stay in the UK, then think about Vindolanda as well. And we were talking about this yesterday, even for people who have no previous experience in archaeological excavation or indeed in the classical world. At Vindolanda, they run an open competition every year for anyone from any background who would like to be involved in their summer excavation season. You can apply to win a place to be on that team, and then they train you up and set you to work uncovering the great things from Vindolanda up near Hadrian's Wall. So that is absolutely brilliant. Rebecca's asking about the Eleusinian mysteries. Just what was the secret? Well, yes, now there we go. There's a good secret. In fact, I've just finished writing an academic piece about how we can bring cognitive behavioral science and our understanding of the functioning of the brain and human psychology to our understanding of what went on in the Eleusinian mysteries. So that should be coming out in the next year or so, and I'll point you towards the academic edited volume, Cognitive Approaches to Ancient Greek Religious Experience, edited by Esther Eidenau. It's going to be a great volume, kind of really fun project to work on. So talked about Vindolanda, talked about the BSA and the BSR, and of course, thinking about language summer schools, there are some great ancient Greek and Latin language summer schools happening across across the UK and in Northern Ireland, obviously, as well. So in Northern Ireland, associated with the Classical Association of Northern Ireland, and there's also going to be a Homer reading course over in Northern Ireland, running for over several weeks. So get involved with that. In in Bryanston, obviously, the ancient Greek summer school is very, very famous indeed, and just getting warming up for this year's applications, and then a number of Latin summer schools as well, all across the country. So lots of things to be getting involved in, and I really encourage you to do so, and work with your different university departments to be able to link into excavations as well that are happening in Italy and in Greece and in different places. These are invaluable experiences as you move forward as a classic student. So moving swiftly on, Greece, yes, where is it? Where is it? Is this Atlantis we're after, Greece? Yes, absolutely. We could all do with a little bit of escapism from time to time. It would be very nice indeed to find Atlantis, spend a bit of time there. Fulvio De Falco is asking, why was pollution such a problem in ancient Greece? Now, pollution is not meaning atmospheric pollution, although I'm sure there was some of that, particularly in Laurion, around the area of the silver mines, because all the silver was extracted from the seams underground, but then it had to be smelted down. That was done in large, open kind of fire pits, kind of on the coast. So I don't suspect Laurion was a very pleasant place to breathe in the air on a regular basis. But what Fulvio is referring to, pollution, is actually this Greek concept of miasma. And miasma is a very, very important Greek religious concept. So it's religious pollution that we're talking about here, which attaches itself to individuals when they are involved in what we might term crisis points in human life. Now, these are very natural crisis points: birth, death, illness, but there are moments when the normal run of society is thrown completely out of whack. And pollution, miasma, exists as a concept to mark out those people who are touched by these crisis points, to mark them out as being outside of the normal run of society, but then in the rules and regulations of how you both get polluted and when you lose that pollution, when you are once again purified, allows people to curate their return to the normal run of everyday life, and indeed for society as a whole to be able to curate its return to business as usual, moving past the crisis point and getting back on track. So as you can imagine, pollution was such a big issue because these crisis points were happening every day, everywhere. Things like birth, death, illness. And what's fascinating is that the rules around pollution were very, very different depending on not just whether it was to do with birth, death, illness, but to do with the individual communities and indeed religious sanctuaries that you were in at any one point in time. So every part of the Greek world had different rules and regs for how many days you were polluted by such an action and what you had to do to be able to purify yourself. Every sanctuary had different rules about who could come in if you'd been polluted by certain activities or who couldn't, and for how long. So in every community you came to, the rules of pollution would have to be made fairly clear and be well publicised. So we have several surviving inscriptions from different communities around the ancient world where they do set up in stone in their community a record of what gets you polluted, for how long, in what ways, and how you come out the other side. Glees, I'll carry them. I volunteer as tribute. Okay, now I'm getting very confused. I'm not quite sure what we're talking about here at all. You'll have to re-inform me. I've missed the thread here on the live Q&A. Linda, very lucrative for some, I imagine. Pollution. Yes and no. It wasn't like dedications within sanctuaries where you had to pay some money to get your purification done. Sometimes you would end up being polluted just by walking into the house or where someone had died, for instance. And the pollution would fall away naturally after a set number of days. So purification would happen without you really having to do anything except wait. But sometimes, obviously, there were ceremonies to be performed, and one can imagine sometimes that there was a cost involved in that as well. So Fulvio, thank you so much indeed. Pollution, such an incredibly important aspect because effectively it helped the Greeks deal with the natural crisis points in life, make sense of them, deal with being thrown out of whack by them, and then offer them a route back into normal service business as usual. Rebecca, was Odysseus' second journey out into the world after he killed the suitors a form of purification from killing them? How interesting. Thank you, Rebecca. Great question. That sense that we know that at the end of the Odyssey, when after that final journey, after the 10 years of trying to get home, Odysseus gets home, and then he's not home for very long after he's killed the suitors, reasserted his position in the household, been reunited with his faithful wife Penelope, that he realizes that he's going to have to go off again on his journey. Yes, his job is not done. The gods require more of him. Not necessarily as a act of purification, really, but in this sense, his lot is not yet to be settled. Sarah Scott, the Hunger Games reference. Aha, okay, got it. Kind of moving forward. So yes, but we see it. The pollution rules and regs in different Greek cities and states are amazingly detailed. So when you look at the purification rules and regs, for instance, from Cyrene, which is in Libya, modern-day Libya, the ancient Greek colony of Cyrene in North Africa, you see them distinguishing down to the level of when a woman has a miscarriage, whether the fetus is, as they term it, distinguishable or not distinguishable, leads to two different sets of pollution regulations that respond to those particular individual precise circumstances. So it's down to that level of detail as to kind of what these exact rules around pollution were. J.A. Summers asking, I'm sorry, I'm off topic. That's tut. But do we have an idea who the final Pythia was? Ooh, okay. Now, we have the famous final question asked of the Pythia by the final pagan Roman emperor in the 4th century. So after Constantine, kind of coming back, there was a short turnaround when it looked like the Roman world would turn back to paganism. And a question was sent to the Delphic Oracle as part of that, with the response supposedly coming back that the waters of prophecy had been quenched and that there would be silence forevermore from Apollo's temple. So this was the final response. But whether we know anything much about the Pythian priestess who was there at the time to give that response, I don't think we do. So Jay Summer, thank you very much for the question. I'm so glad you've been able to catch this live, but I'm sorry not to be able to offer more insight. It's another mystery from the ancient world that we would love to know more about. Now, amazingly, we're almost out of time, and I haven't had a chance to say much about what's in the news at the moment. Curse tablets. We were talking a little bit about curse tablets. I was giving some lectures in schools the other week thinking about Greek religion, and we learned how to curse, how the ancient Greeks cursed, and of course they did a lot of that to do with love, kind of jilted love affairs, but also in the law courts as well, if a law court case wasn't going very well. Now, an old well, down a 2,500-year-old well in Athens, dozens of curse tablets have been found. 30 lead grey tablets engraved with curses have been discovered in this well in ancient Athens in the area of Kerameikos. And now Kerameikos is both a underground metro stop in Athens, but it's actually both the area where all the potters were, so those people making all the Greek vases for the symposium, but it was also the burial ground of ancient Athens. And in fact, if you wanted your curse to have real potency and power, you wanted your curse hopefully to be shoved into a grave, not just into a graveyard, but into somebody's grave. And the more recent the burial in the grave, the better, the more power that dead person, that dead spirit, the body, gave to your curse. So it's no surprise that these things are coming out of the Kerameikos, the graveyard of ancient Athens. In Egypt, First discovery of 2020. We're only in February 2020, but kind of 16 tombs, including 20 mummies and 10,000 statues, have been found as some of the first archaeological discoveries of 2020 in Egypt. 20 different sarcophagi and coffins, varying in shape and size. Kind of 10,000 blue and green Ushabti on monuments marked with various letters have been found. Wow, just the amount of material coming out of the ground is fantastic. We were referring to this as well in the lecture last night, that Pompeii, the ancient drains of Pompeii, are about to start being used again to help deal with the modern runoff water from there's just overwhelming the modern drainage system in the area. Just like in Herculaneum, they've been using the ancient drains for quite a while to deal with the modern runoff coming down from Mount Vesuvius. And then I really like this from Dutch news. The Heerlen Roman baths have now been shown to be the oldest building in the Netherlands. So they thought that this bathhouse in Limburg was dated to around sort of 125 AD, so the 2nd century AD, but they've now shown that it was actually built around 40 AD, so in the first part of the 1st century AD, and that makes it the oldest stone building in the Netherlands. And the Roman occupation of the Netherlands started around 50 BC, with the northernmost border of the Roman Empire dividing what is now the Netherlands in two, kind of thing. So who knew that when you go to the Netherlands on holiday, make your way to see the Heerlen Roman baths? And if anyone's been to the Heerlen Roman baths, let us know as well. Share some photos. Be absolutely brilliant to see kind of what is now officially the oldest building, kind of the oldest stone building in the Netherlands. What's on coming up? We've talked about the Gladiators exhibition from York. Don't forget the Sophocles Antigone, the Burial of Thebes, on the Lyric in Hammersmith between April and May. All of these are on our Facebook page as well. Stephen Fry has announced that there is going to be a musical project based on his book about Greek mythology, his Mythos book. Absolutely fantastic. Can't wait to know more about that. And on the subject of myths, Dawn and Kindersley have brought out a new version of their Greek myths. Meet the heroes and heroines, monsters and gods of ancient Greece. So get your pre-order in now. That sounds great. In terms of places I'll be talking over the next couple of weeks and months, there's going to be a public event here in Oxford based at Torch, which is the Interdisciplinary Research Centre for the Humanities here in Oxford, that I'm going to be talking about along with Peter Frankopan. You can sign up. It's a ticketed event. Tickets are free, but please do register for a ticket if you're in the Oxford area. That's going to be on the 6th of March, Friday the 6th of March. And then there's a number of other public talks coming up. All of those are going to be flagged on the Facebook page and also on my website as well. So do check out the website, michaelscottweb.com. Okay, we are out of time. I haven't got to get to some of the great questions that were still here waiting for us, that we will come to next time. Things like, if you were trapped in a virtual reality world, what time period would you choose? Things like questions about Constantine the Great that we haven't had a chance to get to, the Golden Age of Athens, thinking about underwater archaeology, and dear old Aeneas and Odysseus, should we blame them for their actions? That will all be for next time. Everyone have a lovely rest of the week. When is the next time? The next time will be Thursday the 12th of March. So put it in your diaries. I'm sorry it's a couple of weeks away, but we've got the last few weeks of term coming up at Warwick University. It's going to be a busy time indeed. And so we will see you next on Thursday the 12th of March, 4 p.m. UK time. Very much hope you can join in. Until then, have a lovely rest of your week, fantastic weekend, and we'll see you all soon. Stay safe and enjoy tonight. Don't forget, 2002 on 2002 2020. Take care.